Will girls ultimately outperform boys? Do you think that boys will ultimately win in the education journey? We don't know yet, but we will answer it today. I am Nguyen or Henry from 6B, and the other day I thought of something. I was thinking about boys' brains and girls' brains because we know that there's got to be a difference, right? But then I was also thinking about how these differences can affect something like school. Now, from early childhood, boys are different in terms of brains because of a part called the prefrontal cortex. In fact, it develops a year later for boys than for girls. But why is this so important? Well, the prefrontal cortex is responsible for general intelligence or cognitive skills and emotional maturity or non-cognitive skills. But what are these cognitive skills? Well, cognitive skills are academics, requiring lots of problem-solving skills, attention, or sometimes visual interpretation. For example, mathematics is a subject that requires a lot of cognitive skills because it includes lots of formulas, logical thinking, and abstract concepts. In this graph, it showcases boys' and girls' cognitive skills in 3 metrics: episodic memory, or memory about cognitive skills, semantic memory, or memory about life events, and visual spatial abilities. In episodic memory, girls score higher than boys, consistently keeping a wide gap, ultimately peaking at 25, scoring at around 1.75. Boys are much lower, at 0.25. In semantic memory, girls develop their memory even faster, at peak 1.1. However, boys' semantic memory firstly grew fast, but then dropped at age 15. In visual spatial abilities, though, boys actually score higher than girls, consistently keeping a wide gap of 2 units. Even so, both start to balance out at age 25. Now, we know what cognitive skills are, but what are non-cognitive skills? Well, non-cognitive skills are skills built on our emotions, or in other words, emotional maturity, built over time with experience. In non-cognitive skills, there are 2 contradicting behaviors: sensation seeking and impulse control. Controlled by the orbital frontal cortex, sensation seeking is the urge for thrills and adventures. On the other hand, impulse control, controlled by the anterior cingulate cortex, is a skill that resists the urge for pleasure. In other words, you want this impulse control, but you do not want this sensation seeking. According to the Journal of Youth and Adolescence, the differences in impulse control and sensation seeking of boys and girls are very stark. The lowest amount of impulse control for girls is about 2.7 at ages 14 to 15. However, at the same age for boys, their impulse control is only below 2.6, taking them 1 to 2 years to catch up. The orange part represents the time when sensation seeking is above impulse control. For girls, they have a reasonable balance between both behaviors. However, for boys, they have much, much, much higher levels of sensation seeking than girls. Now, we know that boys and girls clearly have different brains, am I right? Well, unsurprisingly, this also has an effect on school. This graph represents the percentages of students below national minimum standard in NAPLAN, or those who fail the NAPLAN test. In numeracy, there's nearly no difference between boys and girls, with all of them failing around the 5 percentile. In reading, it now reveals that many boys are failing, with up to 10% in year 9. However, it is a different story in writing. In almost all 4 grade levels, boys fail nearly twice as much compared to girls, with year 9 surging above 20%. Next, this graph shows the results in the 2015 PISA test in Canada. It is an international test on science, mathematics, and English. Out of all 5 grade points, boys are actually the majority in this case, but often by a very low margin though. Next, this graph shows the results in A levels, a 2-year course commonly from ages 16 to 18. In the UK, in one of the most recent exams. From a C to an A star, girls are slightly better. In all 3 failing grades, boys are worse by a very small margin. Although this does somewhat show that girls are smarter than boys, like the PISA graph, it is too small to make any conclusions here. Now, we can finally answer the question. Will girls ultimately outperform boys? Well, with enough information, it is safe to say that the answer is girl. Why are we doing this, by the way? Why are we arguing which one is better? In a world of pollution, war, and diseases, it isn't important who is going to solve these problems. Who doesn't matter. When matters. Because we need answers to this crisis now. Even if we're talking about which one can do more in the future, there are so many things that are a factor of this. For example, according to Howard Gardner's book called Multiple Intelligences, he states that there isn't just intellectual intelligence. There are 8 types of intelligences. 8. Moreover, boys and girls also have very different strengths and weaknesses. Girls are generally better in linguistics and creativity, while boys are better in engineering and kinesthetics. For boys and girls, their brains develop very differently, like my research has proven. Therefore, there are so many factors that affect this. To build an inclusive society, we need to get rid of these questions. These questions are barriers for discovery. They're stereotyping. They're assumptions. They're questions that simply not help us, neither the present nor the future. Moreover, it is not just boys or girls. What about the disabled? What about the autistic? What if I have ADHD? In ASEAN, we rarely see people with paralyzed arms or legs. This is because they're all locked up and polarized among society, and they might have answers to the energy crisis. For example, Stephen Hawking is a paralyzed man with ALS, moves on a wheelchair, cannot speak, but has one of the greatest minds in human history. For the long term, the UN's aim is to maintain global peace, protect human rights, deliver humanitarian aid, and support sustainable development, all leading to the point that everyone's lives should be at their best. If we want to maximize everyone's abilities and opportunities, we need to be inclusive, because like what David Nevins once said, polarization is the result of people being more interested in themselves than finding common ground. Now, before we can actually go into these global measures, we have to start small, starting with our school. For the school, we should promote more diversity and inclusion. Maybe in monthly assemblies, we can watch one video about diversity and inclusion. Moreover, homeroom teachers can also let us watch educational videos about diversity, whether it's a normal video or a TED Talk, like this one, as I'm speaking. Moreover, we can hang signs and posters on bulletin boards in hallways. It is just another meaningful choice. For students, please be inclusive of others. We should embrace how others are from different backgrounds, different countries, different religions, traditions, or beliefs. We should all come back to the idea that we are all the same. And none of us should be prioritized or bullied. Because in the end, it shows that we, as WASS students, support global citizenship. This is why we need to promote more diversity and inclusion for boys, girls, and everyone else in between. Thank you for listening.